We'll explore some interesting questions today. When does a product become a brand? And more importantly, when does a brand become a really great brand? Today we'll be with the expert. Denise Yohn is the author of What Great Brands Do. And she's explored some of the most iconic brands in the world to find the 7 characteristics that they have in common. Welcome, Denise.
Hi, Jim.
So tell me a little bit about the research that you did to find these brands.
I wanted to take some of the subjectivity out of it because, we all have our individual preferences on what we like and don't like about brands. So I wanted to make some data-based decisions. So I looked at data like profitability. Which companies tended to have higher profit margins than the average of their competitors or their categories? I also looked at data like if they were on the top of a list of great employers to work for, as well as consumer surveys. The ad agency Y&R's Brand Asset Valuator evaluates brands based on their vision, dynamism, and momentum. And I wanted the brands that I profiled to be at the top of that list as well.
So what I'm hearing is this isn't about being recognizable necessarily. This is about, does it impact our employees? Does it impact our customers? And probably most importantly, does it impact our profitability?
Yes, and in fact, one of the things that I also looked at is the valuation of the brand. So if financial data was available, were these brands contributing significant yet intangible value to their businesses beyond what the hard assets would suggest?
Very interesting. So what did you find as you started to look at this? What made up a great brand?
Right. Well, beneath all of those kind of metrics or indicators of greatness, what I discovered is that great brands are defined by the way that they think about and build their brands. It's very different from other brands, and that's the most defining distinctive characteristic.
Interesting. It almost sounds like that distinction between people who make a great product and people who build a brand a little bit. Is that a fair distinction?
I think so. I think everyone wants to have a great brand. I think those who succeed implement the principles that I describe in my book.
Well, let's talk about those. The first one is, it starts inside.
Yes, great brands start brand building by cultivating a strong internal brand-led culture.
Okay, and an interesting one that I know that some people will find kind of strange is great brands don't sell products.
Right. Well, they avoid selling products because it's so much more effective to seduce your customers through emotion than trying to push your products on them.
So many of these are counterintuitive to me. Number 3 is that great brands ignore trends.
Yeah. Instead of following trends, great brands actually advance their own cultural movements.
And you also say that they don't chase customers.
Great brands are very clear about what they stand for, and they attract like-minded customers so that they're not in the business of chasing after every business that's out there.
That's interesting. And this one wasn't as much of a surprise, but great brands sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, great brands may think big, but
Yes.
they actually implement and execute very well in the finest details of execution.
And I have to admit, one of the ones that was, I guess, near and dear to my heart is this idea of committing to something and staying committed.
Mm-hmm. Focusing is so important. What I found is that great brands commit to the core of their brands, and that's what they stay committed to.
Now, the last one was interesting because when I read it the first time, I thought, well, this can't be right. But once I reread it, it made perfect sense. That great brands never have to give back.
Mm-hmm. And that's because they're actually creating value for all the different groups that are involved in their business. And so it's not as if they have to take with one hand and give back with the other.
Was there any big surprise in the research, either a brand that rose to the top or a story that you saw that really stuck out for you?
I think what was most surprising to me is that when you looked at some of the world's greatest brands, as well as smaller emerging brands that seem to be powerful and profitable, they implemented these principles quite consistently. And once you start looking for them, you can really see them in a lot of companies.
Great. I'm looking forward to taking a look at the rest.
Me too.